My name is Maya. I am 24 years old. Today I want to tell you my story. It is a story about love, trust, and hard choices. I hope my story will give you strength. I hope it will also help you to believe that you are not alone. It all began one warm afternoon. I went to my cousin's wedding. The wedding hall was full of music and light. People were laughing, talking, and dancing. Children were running around and playing. Women wore bright dresses. Men wore suits. Everyone looked happy. I smiled as I watched them. I felt good because my family was with me. I sat at a table with my friends. We ate food and talked about life. We joked and laughed. For a short time, everything seemed perfect. But then I saw something that made me stop. In the corner of the hall, a man was standing alone. He was tall. His hair was dark. He had a soft smile. His eyes looked kind, but his face looked serious. He did not dance. He did not eat. He did not talk with people. He just stood there, watching. Once or twice, I felt his eyes on me. When I looked back, he turned away. Something about him felt different. I was curious, but I did not know who he was. After the wedding, I forgot about him. But 3 days later, something happened. I was at home when my phone beeped. It was a message from a number I did not know. It said, "Hello, Maya. I saw you at the wedding. I would love to talk to you." I stared at the screen for a long time. I asked myself, who is this? How did he get my number? I felt a little nervous, but I also felt curious. So I wrote back, "Who are you?" A moment later, the reply came. "I'm Adrian, the man from the wedding. You looked so beautiful. I want to know you better." I smiled. His words were kind and polite. He did not sound rude. I thought about it for a while. Then I replied. That was the beginning of our story. From that day, we started to talk every day. He asked about my life. He wanted to know what I liked. He told me about his work and his family. He always sent kind words. He made me laugh with his jokes. I began to wait for his messages. When my phone rang, I felt excited. I felt happy when I saw his name. It was strange because we did not know each other well, but I felt close to him. 1 week later, something happened that shocked me. We were talking one evening, and suddenly Adrian wrote, "Maya, I think you are the one for me. I want to marry you." I felt my heart beat very fast. I was surprised and a little scared. We had only spoken for a short time. I wrote back, "But we do not know each other well. How can you say this?" He replied quickly, "I know it sounds crazy, but I feel it in my heart. We are meant to be together. Please trust me. I will make you happy. I already love you." His words were strong. His words were full of feeling. A small voice inside me told me to be careful, but another part of me wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe in love. And in that moment, I said yes. Very soon, we planned a small wedding. It was simple. Only close family and friends came. I wore a white dress. Adrian wore a dark suit. He looked very happy that day. When I looked at him, I thought, this is my perfect man. I am so lucky. I smiled in every photo. My family cheered for us. It was one of the happiest days of my life. I believed we would have a good life together. After the wedding, we moved into a small apartment. At first, everything was beautiful. Adrian was gentle and kind. He held my hand when we walked together. He brought me small gifts like flowers and chocolate. He often told me, Maya, you are beautiful. He made me feel special. At night we talked about our dreams. He said he wanted a family. He said he wanted children with me. I thought my life was full. I thought I had everything I needed. But after some months, things began to change. Adrian started coming home late from work. At first, he told me he was busy. He said there was more work in the office. I believed him. I did not want to think badly of him. But after a while, I noticed something different. He spoke less to me. He did not ask about my day. He did not smile at me like before. When I tried to hug him, sometimes he turned away. I felt something was wrong. Then I noticed his phone. Before, he left it on the table. Now, he kept it in his pocket. Sometimes he put it face down when he was at home. Sometimes he walked out of the room to answer calls. My heart felt heavy, but I told myself it was nothing. I wanted to believe he still loved me. One night, Adrian left his phone on the table by mistake. My hands shook as I picked it up. I told myself, just one quick look. What I saw broke my heart. There were messages from another woman. The words were sweet and romantic. She called him my love. She wrote things he never wrote to me. My eyes filled with tears. I could not breathe for a moment. I felt like the floor under me was gone. Then I saw her name. I knew her. She was from my hometown. She was someone I had seen many times before. At that moment, I understood everything. Adrian had been with her before we got married, and he was still with her now. My heart broke into pieces. I asked myself, why did he marry me? Why did he promise love to me if he wanted her? That evening when Adrian came home, I could not stay quiet. I held up the phone and said, Adrian, what is this? My voice shook. My face was red. He looked at me and his eyes grew wide. He said, I am sorry. I did not want you to find out like this. It was a mistake. I cried. I shouted, a mistake? You promised me love. You promised me trust. How could you do this to me? Adrian begged me. He held my hands. He said, please, Maya, forgive me. I was wrong. I will never do it again. Please give me another chance. He said it again and again. His face looked full of guilt. I felt broken. I wanted to leave, but I thought about our life. By then, we already had 2 children, a boy and a girl. They were still young. They needed their father. They needed both of us. My heart was confused. My mind was full of fear. But for my children's sake, I said yes. I gave him another chance. I told myself maybe he would change. For a short time, things were better. Adrian came home earlier. He spoke kindly again. He spent time with the children. I felt some hope return to my heart. I wanted to believe our family could still be happy. But deep inside, I was afraid. I worried that the pain was not gone. I worried that his love was not true. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. At first, I thought Adrian was really trying. For some weeks, he came home on time. He played with the children. He spoke kindly to me. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that he had changed. My heart told me to be careful, but my hope was stronger. I told myself, maybe love can still grow. Maybe he will be the man I first saw at the wedding. But slowly, I began to see the same old signs. One night he said, "I have extra work." He came home late again. Another day he said, "My boss needed me." I waited, but he did not answer my calls. At dinner, he looked at his phone more than at me. When I asked him questions, he only said short words. I felt like I was living with a stranger. At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself he was busy. I told myself every marriage has problems. But one night, when he left his phone on the sofa, I felt the same fear again. I picked it up. I wanted to trust him, but I also wanted the truth. My hands shook as I opened the messages, and there it was again. He was still talking to the same woman. The words were sweet. The words were full of love. She wrote, "I miss you. I cannot wait to see you." My chest felt heavy. My eyes filled with tears. It was the same pain all over again. That evening, I could not stay quiet. When Adrian walked in, I said, "Why are you doing this? You told me it was over. You told me you loved me." He looked at me with a tired face. He said softly, "I am sorry. I did not mean to hurt you." He did not deny it. He did not even look surprised. I cried, "You broke your promise. You broke my trust again." But Adrian only said, "Please, Maya, give me more time. I will stop. I promise I will change." I wanted to believe him, but my heart was tired. I gave him one more chance, not because I trusted him, but because I wanted to keep my family together. I told myself I could be patient. I told myself he would one day stop. But deep inside, I felt weak. I felt my love was dying. The days passed. Adrian's words did not match his actions. He stayed out late again. He hid his phone. He spoke to me less. I felt like a ghost in my own home. Sometimes he smiled at his phone, but when he looked at me, his face was cold. I knew he was still with her. One night, everything became clear. I was on my way to the store. It was dark outside. I walked past a small street near our home. That was when I saw Adrian's car. He was inside with her. They were sitting close. They were laughing. They held hands. My stomach turned. My legs felt weak. My heart broke into pieces again. I stood there for a moment. I wanted to scream. I wanted to knock on the window, but I could not move. I only watched. Then I walked away quickly. Tears fell down my face. I knew now that he would never change. He had chosen her, not me. That night when he came home, I was waiting. I said, "Adrian, I saw you. I know what you are doing. Do not lie to me." His eyes widened. For a moment he looked shocked. Then he whispered, "I am sorry." That was all he said. No fight. No excuse. Only, "I am sorry." And in that moment, I knew I could not forgive him again. I had already given him chances. I had already broken my own heart to save our family. But he did not care. He did not love me enough to stop. My trust was gone. My love was gone. The next day, I packed my things. I packed clothes for the children. I packed their school books and toys. My hands were shaking, but my heart felt strong. Adrian asked, "What are you doing?" I said, "I cannot live like this anymore. I am leaving." I took my children and went to my parents' house. When my parents saw me, they were shocked. They asked, "Why are you here? What happened?" My eyes filled with tears. I told them part of the truth. I said, "Adrian betrayed me. He lied to me again. I cannot live with him." At first, they did not believe me. They said, "But you have children. Maybe he will change. Maybe you should forgive him." Their words hurt me. They wanted me to stay, but they did not feel my pain. I told them, "I forgave him before. He promised to change, but he did not. I cannot live with lies anymore." The first weeks were very hard. The children asked, "Where is Daddy?" I told them, "Daddy is not here right now." I did not want to break their hearts. I wanted to protect them. At night when they slept, I cried quietly. My bed felt empty. My heart felt heavy. But I also knew I had done the right thing. Adrian came to see me once. He begged, "Please come back. I will change." But I looked into his eyes, and I knew the truth. He would not change. I said, "No, Adrian. I gave you chances. I gave you my love, but you broke it. I cannot return." He cried, but I stayed strong. After some time, I decided to divorce him. It was not an easy choice. It was painful, but I knew it was the only way forward. I had to protect myself. I had to protect my children. I wanted them to grow in a home with peace, not lies. Slowly, life began to move again. I started working to support my children. My parents helped me with food and money. I was tired every day, but I was also proud. I knew I was standing on my own feet. I knew I was becoming strong, but in my heart, I still felt broken. At night, I thought about the past. I thought about the man I met at the wedding, the man who said sweet words, the man who promised me love. And I asked myself, was it all a lie? Was any of it real? My tears fell on the pillow. Still, I kept going. I cooked for my children. I helped them with homework. I played with them in the park. I wanted to give them joy, even if my own heart was heavy. I told myself, one day, this pain will end. One day, I will heal. Life was not easy after I left Adrian. Some days I felt strong. Some days I felt very weak. But every day I had to wake up and take care of my children. They were still small. They needed me. I told myself, I cannot fall. I must be strong for them. At first, we stayed with my parents. They gave us a roof and food. My mother helped with the children. My father gave me advice. But I did not want to live like that forever. I wanted to build my own life. I wanted to show my children that we could stand alone. I started looking for work. I found a job in a small shop. The pay was not much, but it was enough for bread, milk, and rice. I worked hard every day. I woke up early, prepared breakfast, took the children to school, and then went to the shop. At night, I came home tired, but when I saw their faces, I smiled. They gave me strength. Adrian called sometimes. He said, "Please come back. The children need their father." But I no longer trusted his voice. I no longer trusted his promises. I only answered when he asked about the children. I spoke kindly, but I kept my distance. I had closed that door. After some months, I began to think about the future. My job was not enough. I wanted a better life for my children. I wanted them to have good schools, safe clothes, and happy memories. One evening, as I washed dishes, I thought to myself, maybe I need to leave. Maybe I need to go abroad. The idea scared me, but it also gave me hope. I started to ask people about jobs in other countries. One friend told me about an opportunity. She said, "You can work in another country. You can earn more money. You can save for your children's future." I listened. My heart beat fast. Could I really do this? Could I leave everything behind? I prayed for many nights. I thought about my children. In the end, I decided yes. I would go abroad. I would work for them. I would build a new life, It was not easy to tell my parents. They were worried. My mother cried. She said, "How will you live alone in a strange place?" I hugged her and said, "I will be okay. I must do this for the children." So I prepared myself. I saved money for the ticket. I got my papers ready. The day I left, my children cried. I held them tight. I whispered, "I am doing this for you. I will call you every day. One day, I will bring you with me." My heart broke as I walked away, but I knew it was the right choice. The first months abroad were very hard. Everything was new. The language, the food, the streets. I felt lonely. At night, I cried in my small room. I missed my children. I missed my home. But in the morning, I stood up and went to work. I worked long hours. I cleaned houses. I cooked for families. My back hurt. My hands were sore, but I kept going. Each time I felt weak, I thought of my children's faces. That gave me power. Slowly, life became better. I sent money home. My children went to school. They had new clothes. They had books and toys. My parents told me they are smiling again. When I heard that, my heart felt light. I felt my pain was not wasted. With time, I also began to change. I was not only a broken wife anymore. I was not only a woman betrayed. I was a mother, a worker, a fighter. I learned to believe in myself again. I learned that I could live without Adrian. I could live without his lies. I could stand alone. One evening, after a long day of work, I sat by the window of my small room. I looked at the night sky. I thought about my past. I thought about the wedding where I first saw Adrian. I thought about the sweet words he said. I thought about the tears, the pain, the betrayal. And then I thought about myself now, strong, working, giving my children a better life. I smiled. For the first time in a long time, I felt proud of myself. My story is not easy. It is full of love and pain. It is full of broken trust and broken dreams. But it is also full of courage. I learned that sometimes you must walk away, even when it hurts. I learned that you cannot change someone who does not want to change. I learned that love without respect is not love at all. Now, I am building a new life. I do not regret my decision. I am learning to love myself. I am teaching my children to be strong. I am showing them that true love is honest, kind, and loyal. One day, maybe I will love again. But if that day comes, I will not forget what I have learned. I will never accept lies again. I will never accept less than I deserve. We all go through hard times, but stories like this can help us feel seen. Thank you for watching and come back for more real moments. My name is Aria. When my mom remarried, I was 18 years old. I never wanted this story to happen, but the heart is not always obedient. It is a story filled with feelings I did not expect, feelings I did not want, but feelings that were real. It is hard to tell, but it is the truth. Before Holden, my world was quiet and small. It was just me and my mom. My father died when I was 15, and his death broke something in me that never fully healed. The house turned silent. The air felt heavy, and the garden behind our home lost its beauty. My dad had been the one who taught me to ride a bike, who showed me how to plant flowers. After he was gone, even the flowers stopped blooming. They became dry and lifeless, just like our days. My mom worked long hours as a nurse at the hospital. She left early in the morning and often returned late at night. She was always tired, but she still smiled for me, even when her eyes carried shadows. I loved her deeply and wanted her to be happy, but I could still see her pain. She carried her grief quietly, the same way I did. At college, I studied art. Painting was my secret language. It was the only way I could say the things I could not speak. When sadness filled me, I painted with dark colors. When happiness touched me, I painted with bright ones. But for years after my father's death, all my paintings were heavy with darkness. One evening, something changed. My mom came home after work, and I noticed her face first. She was not only tired, she was glowing. Her smile was wide, and her eyes looked alive again. She sat down and called me close. "Arya," she said gently, "I have something to tell you." I felt nervous. Her voice sounded different. "I met someone," she continued softly. "His name is Holden. He is a good man." I froze for a moment. My mom had not dated anyone since my dad passed away. I did not know what to say, so I asked the only question that mattered. "Are you happy, Mom?" Her eyes sparkled as she answered, "Yes, Arya, I am happy." Her happiness mattered more than anything else. I smiled and said, "Then I am happy too." A week later, I met Holden for the first time. He came to our house for dinner. I was nervous the whole day. What if I didn't like him? What if he wasn't truly kind? When he finally arrived, I studied him carefully. Holden was tall, with calm, gentle eyes the color of the sky on a bright day. His hair carried streaks of gray, and when he smiled, his whole face seemed to light up. He didn't try to play the role of my father. He didn't force anything. He was just Holden, a man who had made my mom smile again. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Arya," he said warmly. His voice was deep, steady, and kind. "Your mom talks about you all the time." I smiled back, a little shy. "It's nice to meet you too." Dinner that night was not awkward. It was easy. Holden asked me about college, about my art. He listened carefully, and I could feel that he truly cared about my answers. That reminded me of my father, who had also been a good listener. The memory warmed something inside me that had been cold for years. After that evening, Holden became part of our lives. He visited often, and whenever he was around, my mom looked younger, happier, lighter. They laughed together. The house, once so quiet, began to echo with sound again, sound that felt like hope. 6 months later, they told me they were getting married. My mom's eyes shone with joy, and I could see how much she loved Holden. I told them I was happy for them, and I truly was. Holden was gentle, respectful, and good to both of us. The wedding took place in our small backyard. It was a bright day. The sun warmed the grass, and the sky stretched blue above us. My mom wore a simple white dress that made her look like a young girl again. Holden looked at her as though she was the only person in the world. I stood watching them, and even though part of me missed my father terribly, another part felt grateful that my mom had found laughter again. After the wedding, Holden moved into our house. Life changed slowly but surely. It was no longer just my mom and me. It was a family of 3. At first, I felt strange hearing his footsteps in the mornings or seeing his coffee mug beside my mom's. But Holden was always careful. He never entered my room without knocking. He gave me space and never tried to replace my father. He was simply Holden, respectful and kind. At the beginning, everything seemed normal. But then, without warning, the small moments began. They were not obvious at first. They were so subtle that I almost didn't notice them. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen trying to reach a box on a high shelf. I stood on a chair, stretching my arm, but it was still too far. Suddenly, I heard a calm voice behind me. "Here, let me help." I turned and saw Holden. He walked over, reached up easily, and handed me the box. "Thank you," I said quickly. "No problem," he replied with a smile. His kind smile. But as he stood close, I felt something strange. My heart beat a little faster. I told myself it was nothing, just surprise. I pushed the feeling away and tried not to think about it. Another time my car wouldn't start. Panic filled me because I was already late for class. I didn't know what to do. Holden came outside and asked, "What's wrong?" "My car won't start," I said, frustrated and near tears. He opened the hood, worked on the engine for a few minutes, then told me to try again. I turned the key. The car roared to life. Relief washed over me. "Oh my gosh, thank you, Holden. You saved me," I said without thinking and hugged him quickly. It was just a thank you, hug. But in that moment, I felt something dangerous. I felt safe, completely safe, like nothing bad could ever reach me as long as he was there. I had not felt that kind of safety since my father was alive. I pulled away quickly, my cheeks burning. Holden just smiled as if everything was normal. But inside me, nothing felt normal anymore. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. After that hug by the car, nothing inside me felt the same again. I told myself it was just a small moment, nothing important. but my mind betrayed me. The memory of how safe I felt in Holden's arms returned again and again, no matter how hard I tried to forget. I reminded myself, he was my stepfather. He was my mom's husband. Loving him in any way beyond respect was wrong. I told myself over and over, but my heart did not listen. The small moments continued. Holden and I discovered that we liked the same old movies. My mom thought they were boring, but we both enjoyed them. One evening, when my mom went out with her friends, Holden asked, "There's an old movie on tonight. Want to watch it together?" I said yes, maybe too quickly. We made popcorn and sat on the couch. At first it felt simple, like watching with a friend. We laughed at the same parts and talked about the actors. But during a sad scene, tears slipped down my cheek. I tried to wipe them away fast, but Holden noticed. He said nothing, just quietly passed me a tissue. Our fingers touched for a second, a small brush of skin, but it sent a shock through me. My heart raced. He kept his eyes on the screen, calm as always, but inside me, everything felt like fire. Maybe he didn't feel it. Maybe it was only me. I prayed it was only me. Still, I started spending more time around him. My mom often worked late shifts at the hospital, leaving the two of us alone in the evenings. In the kitchen, while Holden cooked dinner, we would talk. I told him about my art projects, about my dreams of one day painting something meaningful. He told me about his job as an architect, about the buildings he worked on. He asked questions and remembered details, like the name of my professor, the struggles I had with one painting, or the book I was reading. He cared. He noticed things about me that no one else did. And that care pulled me closer to him in ways I didn't want. One Saturday, I was in the garage working on a large painting for school. The colors weren't working. My brush felt heavy. I grew frustrated and threw the brush to the ground. "It's not working!" I cried to no one. Holden appeared at the door, watching quietly. He stepped closer and studied my painting. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he asked softly, "What do you want this painting to say?" I explained my idea, my feelings, my failure. He listened carefully, then said, "Maybe you're trying too hard. Sometimes art needs space to breathe. Why don't we take a walk?" At first I wanted to refuse, but when I looked at his kind eyes, I agreed. We walked to the nearby park. The air was cool, the trees full of green. We didn't talk much at first. Slowly, he began to share a story from his own youth, about a project that frustrated him, about learning that sometimes you must step away to see clearly. His words calmed me. He made me feel like I wasn't alone in my struggle. When we came back, I looked at my painting again and suddenly knew what to do. "Thank you, Holden," I whispered. He smiled, and in that moment something inside me shifted. I realized with horror that I wasn't just grateful for him. I wasn't just happy he was part of our family. I was falling in love with him. The thought sickened me. It was wrong. He was my mother's husband, my stepfather. But the more I tried to deny it, the stronger it grew. I started to avoid him after that. When he was in the kitchen, I stayed in my room. When he watched TV, I went to the library. I made myself busy so I wouldn't have to see him. The house, once full of laughter, grew quiet again. My mom noticed. One night she asked gently, "Is everything okay, sweetie? You've been so quiet." I forced a smile and lied. "I'm fine, Mom. Just a lot of schoolwork." She hugged me and said, "Don't work too hard. I miss talking to you." Her words stabbed at my heart with guilt. Holden noticed too. Sometimes I caught him watching me with a puzzled look, like he was trying to understand. One evening, he knocked on my bedroom door. "Arya, can we talk?" I froze. My heart beat too fast. I didn't want to open the door, but his voice was gentle, almost worried. "Please," he said. I opened the door slowly. He stood there, his face full of concern. "Did I do something wrong? You've been avoiding me. If I upset you, I'm so sorry." I shook my head quickly. "No, Holden. You didn't do anything. It's me. It's complicated." "You can talk to me," he said softly. "You know I'm here for you." And that was the problem. He was always there for me. He was kind, understanding, and gentle. Everything I had ever wanted in a person, but he wasn't mine to want. Tears filled my eyes. "I can't," I whispered and closed the door. Then I leaned against it and cried. I cried for my mom, for Holden, and for myself. I was trapped in feelings I could not control. The days grew heavier. I painted endlessly, trying to pour my emotions onto the canvas. My paintings became storms of dark and bright colors, messy like my heart. One Saturday, my mom was at work and Holden was in the garden. I watched him from my window as he pulled weeds and planted flowers, trying to bring life back into the garden my father once loved. The sun was hot, his shirt damp with sweat, his hands covered in soil. My chest ached just looking at him. I knew then I couldn't continue this way. The secret love inside me was destroying me. I made a choice, a hard choice. I walked down to the garden, my legs shaking. "Holden, can we talk?" He looked up, wiping his hands. "Of course." We sat together on the small bench where my father once used to sit. "I'm going to move out," I said. His eyes widened. "Move out? Why? Is it because of me?" I couldn't tell him the truth. It would break everything. So I gave him part of it. "I'm almost 20. I need my own space. I want to be independent. To grow up." He looked at me for a long moment, his blue eyes searching mine. I felt as though he could see everything I was hiding. Finally, He nodded slowly. I understand, but this will always be your home, Arya. Always. Tears filled my eyes, but I forced a smile. I know. If you ever need anything at all, he said softly, I'm here. And that was the hardest part. He truly meant it. He was such a good man, and I had to leave him. I had to leave my home to protect my mom, to protect him, and to protect myself. A month later, I found a small apartment near my college. My mom was sad but proud. She thought I was being responsible, mature, ready for independence. She never knew the truth, and she never will. The day I moved was one of the hardest days of my life. My mom helped me pack, her eyes misty with tears. Call me every day, she said, hugging me tightly. I will, Mom, I promised. Holden carried my heavy desk up the stairs, helped build my bookshelf, and set things in place. He was quiet, but his presence made my heart ache. When everything was done, my mom hugged me again, and then it was Holden's turn. He stood in front of me, looking at me with an expression I couldn't name. Be happy, Arya, he said softly. It wasn't a command. It was a wish. You too, Holden, I whispered. He hugged me lightly, just for a second. But in that second, I felt everything. Love, sadness, regret, and all the what-ifs that could never be. Then he let go, and he was gone. When the door closed behind them, I was alone. Truly alone. The first weeks in my new apartment were the hardest of my life. The silence felt heavy, almost unbearable. I missed everything. The sound of my mom's laughter, the quiet steps of Holden in the hallway, the smell of coffee in the morning. My heart ached with loneliness. I cried at night, wondering if I had made a mistake. Maybe I should have stayed. Maybe I could have controlled my feelings. But deep down, I knew the truth. Distance was the only way to survive. I poured all my pain into my art. My small apartment became a place of colors, canvases, and brushes. I painted for hours, losing myself in the storm of my emotions. My paintings were messy, filled with both darkness and brightness. They reflected my confusion, my guilt, and my hidden love. One day, my professor looked at my work and said, Arya, your paintings are powerful now. They carry true emotion. Her words gave me a spark of hope. Maybe something good could come from my pain. I spoke with my mom on the phone every day. She always asked if I was eating well, if I was safe, if I was happy. I lied sometimes, telling her I was fine when in truth I was lonely. Every Sunday I visited for dinner. It was difficult to see Holden again, but it was also easier than I expected. There was space between us now, a safe distance. We spoke politely about my classes, about his projects, about little things. We smiled, but we both knew something unspoken sat quietly between us. As time passed, The sharpness of my feelings softened. The fire inside me became smaller, more quiet. I was still drawn to him, but the distance helped. Slowly, I began to build a life that was separate, a life that belonged only to me. A year went by. I grew used to my apartment, my independence. I made new friends at college. I even went on a few dates. One boy from my art class, Tom, was kind and funny. He wasn't Holden, and that was the point. With Tom, things felt light and simple. One Sunday, I came home for dinner as usual. My mom and Holden sat across from me, their hands joined. My mom's face glowed with happiness. "We have news," she said. My heart stopped for a second. I was afraid of what she might say. "We're going to have a baby." Her words echoed in the room. For a moment, I couldn't move. A baby. My mom was pregnant. Holden was going to be a father. I looked at him, and he was staring at my mom with eyes full of love. Then he turned to me, smiling with pure joy, and something inside me shifted. That last quiet ache of love I had been carrying for him, it disappeared. It was replaced with something new. Happiness. True happiness for them both. "That's wonderful," I said, smiling back. And for the first time, I meant it fully. 6 months later, my little brother was born. His name was Leo. He was perfect, with my mom's hair and Holden's blue eyes. When I held him for the first time, something magical happened. I looked down at his tiny face and felt my heart open. He was a new beginning, a new kind of love. The house was no longer quiet. It was filled with the sounds of a baby, cries, laughter, soft coos. It was filled with life again. I visited often, helping my mom with Leo, playing with him, feeding him, rocking him to sleep. My love for my brother was pure and strong, a love I could give freely with no guilt, no confusion. My relationship with Holden changed, too. He was no longer just my stepfather. He was Leo's father, my mom's husband, and in many ways, my friend. The dangerous feelings I once carried were gone. What remained was respect, gratitude, and a deep care for him as part of our family. Looking back, I understood my feelings in a new way. I had loved Holden, but it had been a confused love, born from loneliness and grief. After losing my father, I had been searching for safety, for comfort, for someone who listened. Holden gave me those things, and my heart mistook it for something else. But it was never meant to be. Now, my life was brighter. My paintings reflected it too. They were no longer dark storms. They were full of light, full of color. I painted scenes of my family, of gardens blooming again, of new beginnings. Holden had brought laughter back to my mom's life. He had brought love back into our home. He had been kind to me when I needed it most. For that, I would always be grateful. I knew I made the right choice when I left. It was the hardest choice of my life, but it saved me. It protected my mom, It protected Holden, and in the end, it protected me too. Life is not simple. It is messy, painful, and sometimes full of feelings we don't understand. But it can also be beautiful. I learned that it's okay to feel confused, but we must be strong enough to choose what is right, not what is easy. This was my story. It was hard to live and hard to tell, but it is my truth. And now I am free. To anyone who feels trapped in impossible feelings, be strong. You will survive the storm. Just keep going. And never forget to choose love. The right kind of love.